what's going on YouTube? It is the mouselady here. This is the first time I'm ever doing a review like this. So if you're just here to listen to the review of this mouse, timestamps will be down in the description to skip ahead to what I'm about to say. So with that out of the way, I'm recording this for a second time because I just recorded this and it was 26 minutes long. So apparently I just blabbered on way too long about stuff. So I'll just start off by saying that I wanted to do this. This is just to test out what unscripting is like for me. And if you guys like it, just let me know down in the comments. I just wanted to see how I do. So with all that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get into it now. So specs and features of the mouse first. So I know a lot of you are probably here because you saw that TenZ was using this mouse, but this mouse is honestly so much more than just a mouse that TenZ uses. Spoiler alert, I got this mouse about 2 or 3 months ago, and it's been in my main mouse rotation ever since. This mouse and the Superlight are my favorite mice that I've ever personally tried. And I love the shape, I love everything about it. Alright guys, sorry about that, I had a low battery alert there, but like I was saying, this mouse has been on my desk ever since, and I have a lot of things to say about it, some negative and some positive. So with all that out of the way, real quick, this is a very special mouse. It is not mine, it is actually Ascaldi's, who is also another reviewer in the community, as well as a mouse modder. So this is a modded glossy NP-01. It has a weight reduction to make it 61 grams without any holes. It is deglossed, the scroll wheel is lubed, and it has a custom silk paracord that he did himself. So I'll be, giving you some sound tests to compare it to. But with all that out of the way, the NP-01 is an ergo-shaped mouse, and you can find it on the Vaxi website, and they have multiple different websites for different countries, so you can buy it in a lot, depending on where you are in the world, they should ship there. Price-wise, it is $60 US, which is, a pretty fair price in my opinion, depending on how you look at it. Colorways, you're gonna have the matte black, which honestly isn't really matte on the NP-01, but I'll talk more about that later. And then you have the glossy NP-01, which this one isn't really glossy like I just mentioned. The weight on their website without any cable says it's 75 grams. On my scale with some of the cable on, so meaning with my paracord, it's anywhere between 78 to 80, depending. And the sensor is the 3389, which is of course top of the line. The micro switches are the Huano 60Gs, and the scroll wheel is a 24-step scroll wheel. So feature-wise, you have a angled stress relief even on the stock cable. Obviously, I have a paracord for it because I did not like the stock cable. More on that later. On the bottom of the mouse, you have a DPI button, so this mouse is completely plug and play. So you have DPI, steps of 400, 800, 1600, or 3200. Polling rate button, and your debounce time, which is 2, 4, or 8 milliseconds. And then, the stock cable is pretty thick. I'll put some footage up that I actually recorded before I ended up taking the stock cable off, just so you guys can see how thick it is. And unfortunately with the NP-01, it does come with the 0.45 millimeter thick stock feet, and you do not get an extra set in the box. With the Outset AX, which is their newest mouse, you do get the 0.6 millimeter thick feet. So they did give you the thicker ones, but on the NP-01, I would highly advise you get some aftermarket feet. But with all that out of the way, that's pretty much it with the specs and features. If there's anything that I didn't mention in the video, just go on their website and check it out for yourself. Alright, so small-handed edition portion of my review, which is pretty much like the highlight of my reviews. Excuse me. So for reference, if you're new to my channel, my hand size is 15 by 9 centimeters, which is pretty small. And there's a few things that I do want to say about this mouse that might make or break, the experience for you. So for me, I'm able to relax claw it and regular claw it, and then palm it if I wanted to. But my normal grip on it is, because of this curve on the side here, it's hard for me to curl my ring and my pinky finger properly. So I just fully extend my ring and my pinky finger like this when I go to grip it, and then I curl my fingers, and sometimes I'll bend my thumb. But one thing I wanted to say that could be very important, maybe even a deal breaker for some people, is if you have really small hands like me and you curl your ring and your pinky finger, this curve on the side might actually get in the way for you and might make the mouse really uncomfortable. So that is something to keep in mind. Fingertip grip, I didn't even try to fingertip grip this. It just felt really awkward whenever I would try, but palm grip was perfectly comfortable. Claw, if I put my fingers further up. If you have bigger hands and you claw, this curve probably won't be an issue for you, but if you have smaller hands like me, definitely watch out for them. For me though, I didn't have to strain for either one of the side buttons. They were in a really good spot. Scroll wheel, I had perfect access to that. Mouse 1 and 2, my fingers were in a good spot on that. So yeah, this mouse, I had no problems with it, and I would think, depending on your grip style, you shouldn't have an issue either if you have really small hands. But if you do claw, definitely beware of this hump. Like I said, if you curl your fingers quite a bit. If you hold the mouse further up like this, it might not bother you, but I definitely wanted to mention that. So yes, I have no issues with the size of this mouse. So now I'm going to get into like things that bothered me about this mouse. So a lot of you probably noticed the Starry Night paracord, the BTL grips, and then I also have core pads on this. And the reason for this is the stock cable, for most people, as long as you have a bungee, it's probably not going to bother you, but for me, it was really heavy, and since this is one of, probably my main wired mouse, I definitely wanted to paracord it, but stock, it was just really heavy, and sometimes I could even feel it in a bungee, but like I said, for most normal people, it probably won't bother you. But one thing that did really bother me though about it is I have really sweaty hands. And the stock, they've changed it on their newest mouse, the Outset AX, on the matte version. Their matte coating on the NP-01 is pretty much glossy. And here's the Outset AX so that you can see them both side by side. You can definitely see the difference. And for me, this mouse was pretty unusable without the grips. And the mouse 1 and 2 are also textured, like on the Outset. So these were also really slippery for me too, so that's why I have grips on mouse 1 and 2 and the sides. But if you don't have really sweaty hands, it might not bother you, or if you do have sweaty hands, I would advise getting the glossy version and then sanding it off. It's really easy. You can use the green side of a Scotch-Brite sponge, and you'll be good to go. I would use this over my matte version with the grips on it, just for reference. So now that I got that out of the way, let's see. Some other things that I don't like. This doesn't bother me, but I know it's going to bother some people. The scroll wheel is definitely the Zowie sounding scroll wheel. Here's a sound test. Like I said, it doesn't bother me, but if you don't like a loud scroll wheel, you're definitely not going to like this. Here's what the lubed one sounds like. Way more quiet, but I don't know if most people would be comfortable opening up this mouse. And then, like I mentioned earlier, this does come with the 0.45mm thick feet, and you don't get an extra set in the box. So if you do get this mouse, I would highly recommend that you get some aftermarket feet. It's gonna feel a lot better, guys, trust me, and they're gonna last a lot longer, especially if you play on a rougher surface or even a hard pad. Those stock feet are going to wear down really fast because of how thin they are. And I already mentioned that. So again, the paracord and the grips and all that, that's optional. You don't have to do that. But if you if you want to make the mouse feel as good as possible, and you have the same issues that I have as far as sweaty hands and whatnot, not liking the heavy cable, you are going to have to spend a little more money to get the mouse feeling the way that you want it to feel, which definitely could be a con. One major issue though that happened, or that I mentioned in my Outset AX video, I did have some sensor issues on my Outset AX with static electricity actually making the sensor freeze up. So on my Artisan Zero Soft, I would flick really fast in game, and the static would just lock up my sensor. I couldn't move my cursor, but all my buttons would still work. There's an unofficial fix for it. Unplug the mouse, hold the front side button and the scroll wheel. While you're still holding those in, plug the mouse back in. And when you plug it in, your debounce indicators will start blinking. Not sure what it does, but I haven't had the issue happen at all since I've done it, and the Artisan Zero's been on my desk quite a bit lately, so definitely wanted to bring that up. It's a pretty common issue apparently with the Vaxi mice, so again, I really wanted to bring this up. And that's really all the negative things I have to say about the mouse. I'm trying to say them a little bit faster so that I don't make the fucking video 30 minutes long. But, so now I'm going to get into what I do like before closing out the review. So, the most important thing to me in a mouse is the shape. And this is, like, the best shape that I've ever tried. I'm not even exaggerating. Before this mouse, my favorite shapes were the Zowie ZA13 and the Rocat Conpure Ultra. This almost feels like it was crafted for my hand personally. I don't care if that sounds cringy, that's literally how I feel. There's just something that just really works about this mouse for me. And if you have the money and you're in the market to, and you want to try out a mouse from a company that really caters to just good shapes overall, you should really give this or the Outset AX a try. I don't see anything really dethroning this as far as my favorite shape, and it is my main wired mouse, and it has been ever since I got it. So, like I mentioned in the negatives, I know some people aren't going to like the scroll wheel. I personally really like it. I use it to switch weapons in-game. I never over scroll or anything like that. It's been really good to me, but I will say I do prefer the feeling of the lubed scroll wheel that Ascaldi did on his modded NP-01, so I will be lubing mine. So yeah, that is something that I do like about the mouse. So besides the shape, my favorite thing about this mouse is the sound and the feel of the clicks, and they are the Huano 60G switches like I mentioned earlier, and I will give you a quick sound test. So, mouse 1 and 2. Side buttons. Scroll wheel. And then here's the modded scroll wheel for you. So yeah, they're some of the best that I've ever heard and felt. I didn't like them at first, but then I got used to them, and they're really light and crispy, but I don't accidentally click them. Like, they're not that light to where you're gonna accidentally click them all the time. They're a really perfect, balance for me. And another thing I really like is my mouse 1 and 2 have absolutely no pre-travel at all. Even though I've been maining this mouse for the last, 3 months now, the feeling and the quality of the clicks hasn't changed at all. And I really, really appreciate that, and it's been really nice. And, another thing, the build quality on this mouse, this thing is built like a tank. One thing I will say, though, is I can actuate the side buttons if I squeeze it, but you're not gonna have that happen in-game unless you literally, monkey grip the mouse. But other than that, there's no, creaking or anything like that, no rattle when you shake it. It's built really nicely. I'm not going to do the, quality control check on this, because this was modded, but on just the regular stock, it's very, very, very nice. And, I do really like the side buttons as well. There's no any weird, quality control on the front or the back one, like you see on a lot of other mice. There is, I guess, some post-travel on the back one more than the front, but that happens to pretty much every mouse, so that's no surprise there. But I guess the last thing I'll say, because this review's getting really long again, this mouse is probably the best mouse that I've ever used for tracking overall. Just this curve on the right and how it locks in my fingers on the side like this, it makes me feel really stable. and I constantly break like my tracking Kovacs, like personal best scores with this mouse because I feel so secure while using it. And overall, it's an excellent experience. But guys, this video is getting really long, so I'm going to go ahead and close it out. I should be doing my regular style review next weekend. So with all that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know how you like the style down in the comments. And with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.